Hi, friends. This is Joe Chadburn, the Ambassador Network Director here at World Missionary Press. I am with my friend, Reverend Ebow Godsaye Simpson from Ghana. Welcome, Reverend Ebow.
Well, thank you so much, Joe. It's an honor to be with you on this channel.
Yes. So I wanted to call and touch base with you because you're my friend. We just recently met in Ethiopia and had a wonderful time over a meal and just wonderful discussion. So I just wanted to check in on you and let our friends, our supporters and ambassadors here at World Missionary Press kind of listen in on our conversation, because a lot of times we can be really, besides us being in quarantine and lockdown and with all of these, 6-foot distancing and masks that we wear and all of that, we can, and everything that's happening in the United States, we can sometimes be out of touch with what's happening with our friends overseas. So it's always good to to catch up and see what's happening. So, my friend, what is happening? What's going on in your country right now due to with COVID-19 in the midst of this?
All right, thank you, Joe. Currently in Ghana, it's been almost like 3 months since we got a lockdown, right? A partial lockdown. First of all, it was in the major cities, 2 major cities, that is Accra, 2 major regions, Greater Accra and Ashanti region. And then later on, the restrictions increased, right? So we've gone through various stages. The first stage where there was almost like total lockdown, only just essential services. And we went through the phase where people had to be supported, a lot of support through food and a lot of things. Then there was a lift up to a point, and now at this point, it was the churches and major gatherings that were shut. But yesterday or Sunday, it had been announced that from this coming Friday, they will ease it. So from coming Friday, the churches and groups will be allowed to meet, but the numbers, it should not be above 100.
Yes.
And so, there's going to be some kind of gathering, and there's a whole list of protocols that must be followed, right?
Sure.
In the churches, right? You have to have the temperatures of members registered. People coming into the service must be registered so they can know those who are in the service at the time, and the use of microphones, the protocols of cleaning, fumigating the place, but at least there is some, easing of the tension. But the services are going to be just for an hour. We are allowed to have a service for an hour, and I believe that it is the aim of the government to try to get us to begin to live or coexist with the virus, rather than just be staying away and have the fear, However, some people still have a lot of fears. There are churches that have outrightly said they're not going to meet. They are not going to meet till whatever time, But the fact is that, we don't have a cure. We don't have a cure for the virus, right? We don't know whether it's going to be months, year, whatever. But there's an easing, right? And when you look at the economic activity, things seem to be picking up. People are going about doing, things that they need to do. They sit in the transport, they go back, they come forth, and it's difficult to as it were, raise serious red flags. You go to the market, there are people there. There are people there. You talk about the social distancing, right? It is said, but it's not. It's observed in some places. It's not observed, and right. So it's about human priorities. You know,
Yes.
it's about the priorities, but people are really getting on with their lives. And I believe that
Yeah.
as ministry workers and things like that, we cannot stay off ministry and say that because of the pandemic or because of the COVID-19, you
Yes.
know, we should have faith and, boldness, right, in the face of it and still do it. But we still need to observe the protocols,
Yeah.
right? However, we need to have courage and boldness in the face of it.
Yes.
You know, having said that, when it comes to Ghana in this part of the world, we all have gone through the same period of time. But the case count in Ghana is, 8,070, as I think yesterday or something,
Mm-hmm.
right? And there's been 36 deaths.
Is this mostly older people like it is in the United States?
Yeah.
And people with immune deficiencies, things like that for the most part?
Most of them.
Yeah.
Most of them older people having some few underlying health issues,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So it's 36 deaths, 8,070 infected cases, right? And we've had about 2,947 recoveries, which is close to 3,000 recoveries.
Mm-hmm.
And so the active cases are 5,087 active cases as of today.
Mm-hmm. So
You know,
we hate to see any deaths, but thankful that it's not higher than that. And like you say, we have to walk in love and practice certain things to be a blessing to others with the social distancing, all of that. But at the same time, trusting the Lord through all of it, and believing Him to carry us through, because again, He is a redemptive genius, and He is working all things together for good.
Yeah.
And now, being the national director for Every Home for Christ, that's got to really kind of affect your mission, because if you're in lockdown or churches weren't even open, you work and coordinate things with pastors and literally take the gospel to every home. And we'll talk about the use of our literature later, and I know that you want literature and the importance of it. But tell me how it has impacted what you're doing, and even as a minister, are you doing things online? How has it affected what you do, ministering or in your mission to reach every home in Ghana?
Right. Initially, we had to temporarily, right, place a stop on the work we're doing in the regions, right, because of our strategic plan. EAT has a strategic plan, and we are working, in 5 major places. Mm-hmm. So our field staff had to put on a temporal, stop, mm-hmm. right? Because that was the initial stages, and everybody wanted to see how this whole thing plays out, mm-hmm. right? And how the virus is going and the infection rates and all that, So pretty much now, like it's established, we've been able to see the patterns and see how things are going. So there's generally the loosening up of things, So we're just about getting ready to begin to move into the field, right, and begin to do, because it's about the nose mask and the washing of hands and keeping the protocols, mm-hmm. right? Yeah. And then it's not as fearful as it used to be, like mm-hmm. even passing out gospel literature. Everything was like, at first, the impression was like any little thing you do, you spread it. Mm-hmm. That was it. That was the initial impression. So, right, people would not even want to take a gospel track or do anything. So it was better to keep the protocols. Mm-hmm. However, things are easing, and even in the verbal sharing of the gospel, yes. right? Once you have a kind of a normal nose mask, because some nose masks are too tight that even if you're talking, you literally don't hear.
Your voice is muffled badly, yes.
Yes, but if you have a normal nose mask, you should be able to even communicate the gospel both verbally and right. And with the easing, us as the pastors, we talk to pastors by phone, through social media, contacting pastors, and it really was a trying time. I should say that for many pastors, right, especially pastors of little congregations and those who have a work, right, in some of the rural areas where the economic activity of the place is not very high. Poverty, there's a kind of a poverty. And so for the sudden shutdown or the sudden lockdown, right, they were not prepared. Lots of people were not prepared, right? And then the initial reaction was to help the needy and the poor. So at a point, pastors began to even have problems themselves because they even didn't have enough. They themselves, had given out and were thinking, oh, after 2 weeks, there'll be an announcement and then there's an extension.
Yeah.
Oh, probably another 2 weeks, there's an extension. So it began to take a very serious financial toll, right, on both churches where some people had already spent, depleted their funds, and they were just believing that the most important thing is to get through. So at that time, what EHC was doing here was to be in touch with most of our pastors and our partners, right, encouraging them. And where we can help, we do just help them and keeping hope alive and praying with them and giving them hope.
Yes.
Some pastors were already on the social media drive and be able to use a little bit of Facebook Live here and there. Some were not prepared. Some didn't even have the kind of phones that could give them the ability to do it.
Yeah.
And in some of the areas, if you go outside some of the city and you go in, the internet service is not very, very stable. From stable to really not anything to write home about in certain communities as you go down. So it was difficult. It was difficult for them to just, but for us, right, I'm on Facebook Live. I do services to our local church and keep encouraging the body of Christ here and there, because we have some cameras and a few things prepared. So we're able to, either by the phone or by the use of our media team, right, able to do some of these online, ministry, right?
Wonderful.
However, when it comes to EHC, our arrangement with the churches is more of training. One, we do mobilization, then we do training, right? And then we engage. So the pastors are like our conduit. We get it on with the pastors. The pastors will mobilize people within the community from churches, and then we will get on. So a lot of that aspect of work was not very, very successful, because then even if we wanted to use a Zoom, we would need to connect, and some pastors are not even on it.
Can't connect
because of the areas we work. We work in the northern regions, we work in the 3 northern regions, and we work in other places. So we've had challenges, but thank God it's easing. We are, from this Friday, meetings are going to begin and things like that. And so we are strategizing to even give some kind of training, because this is a situation that we did not foresee. And if things like that came up, we should have a strategy to be able to mitigate it. There should be a way around our evangelism discipleship program, right? That takes all of this into consideration already.
Yeah.
So if something happens, we still know that this will just continue in a certain fashion.
Yeah, I think this is a teachable moment for all of us as far as proceeding forward and being ready for different things that may occur. And I am so thankful for technology. Now, I do have a question. Are there people that are, without running water and food? Is there a real need that way?
Yes, there is a need that way. There is a need that way. Because things have been eased up a little, right? It seems not to be as visible as it used to be. But in the initial stage when the lockdown happened, right, because there was not much preparation, that was a major thing. However, lots of the churches got involved, right? And so for the first few weeks or months of the lockdown, there was a lot of humanitarian stuff that was going on, and it went on and on and on, helping people.
Yes.
With now, it's more like the essential services are the things that are open. So if your business is non-essential, then you might be finishing your cash. Your cash inflows and outflows are not balanced. So people begin to feel the pinch. And when people begin to feel it, it trickles down to the poor person, because at the beginning of the lockdown, I probably could help you. But whilst it's going and then I'm beginning to have shortage, then my ability to help also begins to go down.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I think that all these things have been thought about. That's why the government is also trying to ease things up, because it's getting tighter and tighter.
Yes.
Right? In many businesses.
Now,
when it comes to water, we were, there are some communities that don't have water. That is a fact. Right? But I think the Ghana Police Service and some of the places, people were ready to, the fire service and other people were ready to take tankers to some places for water, right? However, there were still places that struggled with water.
Yeah.
But generally,
go ahead.
Generally, let me finish this thought. In Ghana, generally, the government gave a 3 months relief on water bills, so that you could get water anywhere, right? You could get water from your neighbor or whatever at no cost, because the key thing was washing of hands. If you you needed water to wash hands, and if water was going to be expensive, people were going to be very thoughtful of, washing their hands and keeping that protocol. And that seems to be the easiest way to go, because you need to buy sanitizer, you need to buy this, but the washing of water seems to be one of the things that could come up very easily. So we thank the government that was done, and I think even the electricity they had to give us, pay half your regular bill on electricity. So those were some of the reliefs that we got in this part of the country.
Yeah.
In this country.
That is very good. I'm just thankful for that. When did the restrictions start? Right around the date, was it in March with COVID-19?
Yes, I think that it started in, very early March, because we probably didn't go to any service in March. Yes.
Okay.
It was by the end of February, early March, the restrictions started, and then the borders were closed. And and that was when it started.
Sure.
Well, so it's been February. It was March, April, May. Yeah. So this 3 months. It's been exactly 3 months.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm so glad that the restrictions are being lifted and that everybody will be getting back to, doing what they do on some level. Now, are they requiring, or is it recommended to wear masks?
Yes, they're requiring that we wear masks, and we wear. It used to be like very strict. You have to wear masks everywhere. But there seems to be, I don't know, the debate is on about wearing it in public, right? In places where, because it's very uncomfortable to wear the mask. All the time. It's very uncomfortable. I find it uncomfortable.
If it's hot and humid, it can definitely be uncomfortable. Sure.
Yes,
Sure.
but when you're in public places, you have to wear it. When you're in a transport with people, so there's a no mask, no entry sign on in most business stores and in important public places. It's a regulation. With that, there's a no mask, no entry regulation, right, for public places. Yes. And for commercial vehicles and things like that, right? With the easing of the churches, it's a no mask, no entry as well for churches when we resume services, so that must be observed. Even they're asking that even if you are speaking or you are singing, you still must have a mask on.
That's tough when you wear glasses too, because they get steamed up if you're trying to read anything.
That's the thing. That's the thing. You can't win. We cannot win. It's one thing or the other.
There's not this whole COVID-19 didn't discriminate much, because we have, there's things that are happening all over the world to all of us, simultaneously, and we're sharing stories from across the Atlantic Ocean, and there are similarities. So I'm so glad to hear about the government with the water, the electricity, and that people are pulling together, and that and that's happening here too. Restrictions are loosening, and so they're loosening. So we're really thankful for that. Now, I want to talk to you about the importance of literature while I have you here.
Yes.
How important is gospel literature to the people of Ghana, and how accessible are Bibles or even New Testaments and portions of Scripture to the average person in Ghana?
I think literature is so important. We cannot underestimate the importance of literature, because there's so much of technology that has come in. However, this is Africa. This is Africa. You'll be surprised. I live in Accra, the city, the main city, but I still have people in my church that don't have an Android phone. So they cannot do with the Bible on their phone. No. There are so many things, they still will have to do, right, with a handheld script. Yes. And I'm talking about Accra. I'm not talking, about far off, in this part of the world, right? The major capitals seem to have lots of development, and as you go further on, it trickles down. Work is being done to bring things to a level, but we are not yet there. We are not yet there, and so and people do a lot of walking, travel, and things. So there's a lot of time for reading. Say somebody's traveling from one place to the other, he might leave his home without anything to read. But when you put a literature in his or her hand, there's an opportunity to read it either in the taxi or in that travel, and so it is so important. And the literature has a life in that when the person reads it and loves it, he will try to keep it. Somebody else will find it. Somebody else will read it. So even in the home, it can be read by more than one person. Yes. So it's so important. And people have a kind of a life, a fast life. There are times people want to go and do things, so you don't always have the opportunity to sit or stand with somebody and to explain the totality of the gospel or to get the person to understand. But once the person gives you a favorable response and you have literature and you have a name, right, of Every Home for Christ or something stamped behind it, you have a number, you know, the person has a reference to be able to always call back. Yes. When he calls our offices, we can direct the person back into his town or village, to our coordinators there, to the churches there.
Yes.
You know, so it is so, so important. And we have many testimonies coming in, right, where people could write even to us or call the office. Some even pastors.
Yes.
They don't get the literature from us. Somebody finds the literature and recommends it to his pastor that, oh, I got this literature, maybe can we use this for evangelism, right? Can we call this number? And people call, right, and they come to our offices and receive literature.
That's
you know,
wonderful.
they do receive literature. I mean, right, there are areas we're working with, areas we are not working with, but some way, somehow, right, literature just goes. People just call for it. We book them in. We send to them. At some of them, we send it by trucks or by a transport, and it's delivered at the other side. You know, and so the testimony when it comes to literature is so much.
Yes.
Right. There was a Muslim convert who came to our offices. In fact, I think he put in, he saw Every Home for Christ or something somewhere. And so he wanted to be a part of helping get literature across. And so the email went to PACI, and then a continental director sent the mail. Then I called the guy and he came. This young man, right, was converted through literature.
Praise the Lord.
He got converted through literature. It was the curiosity of the things that he had seen in the literature, right? And so he had converted and he wants to be involved. You know, so he's called Samuel. He comes to the office, and when we're going to outreaches, we get along with him to do it. Literature is not an archaic thing at all.
Yeah,
it's not. So far as we still read our Bibles, and we still buy books and we read, you know, technology is just trying to advance it, but we haven't gotten there yet.
Yes, and
you know, because even if you, let's say you have if it's not given, then you have to go and look for it.
Yes.
You see, that's the limitation.
Like even in your phone, if you have a piece of literature, that is the subject at hand. On my phone, there's a million things I can Google, or so many apps I can go to. There's so much in there, you know, the wealth of information where this is specific. Yeah.
Yes, this is specific. And if the person handing it to you, I mean, tells you of the importance or makes you see how important this is to your life and your eternity, you would give it a thought. You would try and, you know, so I believe that it's very, very important. And like you deal in various kinds of literature, you know, it helps. The variety also helps, because if you don't take this, you will meet another one somewhere, right? You would meet one who says that, where do you want to spend eternity? If you don't get one that way, you would hear the greatest gift of God. You will see a literature with a title. There will definitely be a title of a literature that would speak to somebody's situation or will attract the person's interest.
Yes, like ours, with How to Know God, Help from Above, The Amazing Life of Jesus Christ. You know. Yes. So wow, this has been wonderful. Do you have anything that you would like to share before we sign off, my friend?
I would like, first of all, I'd like to say that I'm really grateful to God for meeting you and your thoughts and the time we shared together and all that.
Yes, Lord.
And so, first of all, continue doing the great work you're doing. And also to World Missionary Press, right? You are a great partner to Every Home for Christ worldwide. And your support is enormous. We just love you all and the work you do. We know that you spend so much time. And it's my prayer that the Lord will continue to support you. God grant you great supporters and donors who will help so that you can do what you do and help the body of Christ to be able to fulfill the Great Commission, right? I mean, we love you so much, and your labor of love will never be in vain.
Praise the Lord. Well, thank you so much, my dear friend. This has been wonderful. And to all our listeners, viewers, God bless you. We love you. Have a wonderful week.